Hi, Forest Ecology class. Okay, if you have managed to hack your way into using Treeclim, remember Treeclim, we ran into a bunch of problems because it's not supported on the CRAN archive anymore, so you can't just use install packages, Treeclim, and bring it into RStudio. Yeah. So if you followed my instructions from the course website and are able to get Treeclim to run, you are awesome. Like, that takes some real grit to figure that out. If not, please come to office hours or we'll talk about it in class. Anyway, okay, so I got Treeclim running on my computer. And for the project, we need to now run some climate analyses on our tree ring chronology. If you look over here in my files window, I've got 3 tree ring measurement files. So I've got Mount Axtell, PIEN, that's Engelmann spruce, right? Picea engelmanni. We've also down here, we've got dunes, that's a Great Sand Dunes National Park, Pinus flexilis, so limber pine. I've got Goliath, that's Mount Goliath near Mount Blue Sky. PIAR, that's Pinus aristata, bristlecone pine. Okay, so you've got 3 different chronologies you can use. Choose 2, your 2 favorite. I've also got a bunch of climate data here, right? So these are all, say, CO for Colorado, DIV 01, there's some 02 and 04. What that means is this is divisional climate data. If you look at this map, right? So I just did a Google search, Colorado climate divisions. What climate divisions are, it takes all the weather stations in a portion of a state and lumps them into a climate division. These are usually sort of by watershed, right? So you see Division 2 over here is the west slope of Colorado. This is the Colorado River watershed. Division 1 is the Arkansas River watershed. Division 4 is the South Platte, and so on. So we've got 3 divisions. We've got data that we can use. Remember, the NOAA website is down because of the hurricane, and so we're kind of out of luck in terms of getting other climate data. This is stuff I was able to find in my files. So, okay, we got climate division 1, 2, and 4. Mount Axtell is in climate division 2. It's over here in Gunnison County. So if you want to use the Mount Axtell spruce, I would use anything from division 2. The Goliath, Mount Goliath is in climate division 4. It's over here in Jefferson County. So climate division 4 is the one to use. The sand dunes are down here in division 1. So you can use division 1. 5 might be better, but we don't have the data, do we? All right, so here we are. The other things are, okay, so we have our files here, division 1. The PCP is precipitation. So that's monthly precipitation. I think we have data from 1895 till like usually 2019 or 2020. So that's precipitation. Tmax is maximum monthly temperature. Another precipitation, Tmax, maximum monthly. If it just says TMP for temperature, that's average monthly temperature. PDSI is the Palmer Drought Severity Index. So this is an index for drought. It might actually work better than precip for trees because it takes into account basically like how much water is in the soil. So if you use Division 4 data, we've got that available. Tmin, so minimum monthly temperature, average monthly temperature, and so on. Okay, so that's what we've got to work with. All right, so if you've done this already, we use DPLR. We created a chronology, so we're taking all those raw measurements and making them into one wiggly line, one chronology of tree ring data for the whole site. So I did that for Mount Goliath. As you see over here in my data, I've got a Goliath chronology, standard chronology, STD, and so there's my sample depth and my chronology there for Goliath. Okay, now here's what we're going to do with Treeclim. So if you've gotten Treeclim in, great. Run library Treeclim to load in the package. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to load in our climate data. So we have 2 variables here, temp and precip. So for temp, I'm going to load in division 4 TMP. So that's just average monthly temperature. For division 4, we also have minimum monthly temperature. So if you think that growth is limited by minimum temperatures, you can try that one too. But I'm just going to do average. Okay, so I'll run that line. And now you see we have an object over here called temperature, 127 years, 13 months, because we've got here, we'll look at it here, right? So year is the first column, and then we've got the 12 months here, January through December. Temperature, these are in degrees Fahrenheit. Okay. Now we're going to load in precip. So I'm going to go load in CO Division 4 precip. We have PDSI. That might be worth checking out too. But in my example, I'm just going to use total precipitation. So again, run that line. We have a new object here called PRCP. And that's, again, years 1895 to 2021, January through December. This is average monthly precipitation, or total monthly precipitation in inches. Okay. It's from NOAA, which is a U.S. agency, so we use bizarre U.S. measurements of inches in Fahrenheit. Okay, now I'm going to run this line. So there's two things that Treeclim can do for you. One is it can do a correlation analysis, and two, it can do a response function analysis. I'll talk about what those are in a minute, but here we'll run the correlation analysis first. So I'm creating an object called Goliath.core. This is the main function you're going to use, DCC, and you tell it chrono equals Goliath STD. So that's my tree ring chronology. Climate equals list, temp precip. So those are my two climate variables. Variable names, I'm just sticking with temp and precip. Months, you can play with this if you want. What this means, -6 means June of the previous year to the growing season, and 9 equals current year September, right? So the months are just numbered 1 for January through 12 for December, and you can do previous year and current year. I think this is a pretty good starting point, previous June through September. You can play with those numbers and see what happens. Method here is correlation. Notice the code is the same here for response. I'm just changing method equals response. Okay, so let's run those. So there's one. You'll see running for time span 1896 to 1983, and then we get the caret, so we can do this again. Let's do response function, running, done. Okay, so now we can plot them. So let's plot response function first. Okay, here's the graph. I'll pull this over. And so what you see here at the bottom are the months, right? Because we have monthly climate data. This is saying how much does each month influence tree growth, right? So we have our tree growth chronology, and we have our climate data, monthly climate data. So climate in each month, how much does that contribute to the annual growth of that year? The all caps months are the current year, so the current growing season, January through September. The lowercase months are from the previous year, right? So remember, we did previous June to September. The red values here are precipitation, and the blue are temperature. So what do we see? How do we read this graph? So response function is basically, it's doing a multiple regression where we're trying to predict tree growth using all of these monthly predictors. So it's a multiple regression where all of our monthly climate variables are predictor variables, and the thing we're trying to predict is tree growth. So if a month is a significant predictor of growth, what you're going to see is the coefficient. These are basically regression coefficients. So the coefficient's going to be here. It's going to be away from this 0 line. And notice how the 95% confidence limits on these months, right? So previous July and previous August, those are both positive, and the confidence limits do not overlap 0. If the confidence limits overlap 0, notice how they're dotted instead. That means those are not significant predictors. Because if the confidence limits overlap 0, we don't even know if that has a positive or a negative impact on growth, right? So that's why those are non-significant months. So, okay, how can we read this? Oh, these are positive. July and August, precipitation in the year previous to growth. So the prior year's precipitation in July and August has a positive impact on growth. That means if we have wet months of July and August, the following year's ring width is going to be thick, right? So positively associated. If we had dry July and August, that means that year is going to be narrow, right? So July and August of the previous year, precipitation has a significant impact on growth. Over here for temperatures, most of these are not significant, but current year August is a significant predictor of growth. So that means if it's warm in August, you're going to get a wider ring. If it's cold in August, you will get a narrow ring, right? So it's positively associated. Okay, so that is response function. The threshold for significance in response function analysis is very high. So it's possible you could run this with your climate data and you get nothing significant. So the next thing to try would be the correlation, right? So we did this correlation analysis, and that's just like you're familiar with, right? So correlation coefficients, is this month significantly correlated with tree growth or not? It's not as robust as response function where we're doing regression, but you can try it. So let's try that. Let's plot the correlation coefficients, and oh, okay, we get the same results, which is interesting. Okay, so that means we can probably be pretty confident that a wet July, August of the previous year and a warm current August leads to growth, leads to a lot of growth in the tree rings. This is important because if we were to do a reconstruction and we want to say, okay, we've got tree rings back, for 1,000 years, what are we really reconstructing? And what we could be reconstructing here is August temperatures or prior year precipitation. Okay, so you can try this with any of the tree ring data and any of the climate data that we have. When you plot this, I would stretch out the plot so you can see all the months clearly, right? Just play with the window, and then you can export it. You can save it as a JPEG or something like that, and these can be the figures in your paper. Okay, good luck, and of course, let me know if you have any questions.